Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our virtual Bridges Breakfast. I'm Wes Reohr, Vice President of Small, Mid, and Large Group Sales at Capital Blue Cross. I'm also a proud Bridges Society member and serve on the Bridges Society Steering Committee. Before we get started, I'd like to thank our Bridges Society sponsors for supporting events like the one we're having today. Our silver sponsors include Capital Blue Cross, Penn National Insurance, and our bronze sponsor is KPMG LLP. I also would like to thank each and every one of you for your time today. Really appreciate it. I appreciate all the questions that were submitted by the Bridges members as well. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Todd Shamash, President and CEO of Capital Blue Cross. Todd assumed the top leadership role of Capital Blue Cross in April of 2020, having previously served as Senior Vice President, General Counsel, and Corporate Secretary leading the legal, regulatory, and governance teams. He has been uniquely involved in all major facets of Capital Blue Cross business since 2012. His guidance has been pivotal on Capital Blue Cross's emergence as a leading health plan in one of the country's most competitive healthcare environments. Todd previously served as Deputy Chief of Staff for the Pennsylvania Governor's Office, where he oversaw healthcare, insurance, and all health-related agencies, was Senior Counsel for Jefferson Health System, and Department Counsel for the Pennsylvania Insurance Department. Todd has served on numerous banking, insurance, community, and health-related boards, including the Pennsylvania Employee Benefits Trust Fund, Pennsylvania Health Insurance Exchange Authority, Pennsylvania Banking Securities Commission, as an appointee of Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf on the Pennsylvania Healthcare Cost Containment Council, and Harrisburg's Whitaker Center for Science and Arts. Don't hold this against Todd if you're an NCAA basketball fan, but Todd is a graduate of the University of Kentucky, and he did get his law degree at Dickinson Law School. Todd is a native of Central Pennsylvania, and he resides in Cumberland County with his wife and 2 children. Todd, good morning. How are you? Welcome.
Good morning, Wes. Thanks for having me. Appreciate the time. Look forward to the conversation, and just want to thank both United Way and the Bridges Society. Look forward to a good conversation and hope everyone has a nice, strong cup of coffee this morning.
Thanks, Todd. Well, obviously, I have the pleasure of working with you day in and day out, but people are just going to get to know you a little bit more here with our chat. So I know I gave a quick little blurb here on yourself, but can you tell us more about you and your role at Capital Blue Cross?
Sure, happy to. I grew up right here in Susquehanna Township. I'm literally talking to you from our headquarters here on Elmerton Avenue, and grew up really about 5 minutes from here. So if I look around the corner, I can see my high school. So someone said to me the other day, "You've gone far in life." But for me, it is not only a pleasure, but it is certainly flattering to be a part of a local company like Capital. Happy to talk to you about that. But you know, we felt strongly we wanted to come back to where we grew up. My wife and I are both from here. We actually met in Philadelphia. So maybe a lesson learned there. I had to leave Harrisburg to meet someone from Harrisburg, but we are back here and just so pleased to be raising our kids here. But each and every day, you know, my first job was at a local pizza shop on Linglestown Road. I started washing dishes then at the age of 15, and definitely still washing dishes when I get home, but that's all part of it. So really happy to be back. As you mentioned, I've worked in a few places, a lot of government experience where I got to be kind of in policy making. And for me, that's a passion to be able to help people affect things. And in healthcare, obviously we're in the health insurance business, but we're also in the access business. And, you know, there's a reason health insurance is more regulated, it's more personal, it matters. And a big part of why I ended up here at Capital, leaving government, I always say I had the government bug. And it's not every day that you get to affect someone's life, help somebody, but it does happen in government. And I felt coming to Capital, I would still have that ability. So local company, and we're proud of what we do. I was talking to Tim Fatzinger at the United Way the other day, and just to continue the partnership that we've had for a long time here at Capitol, well before me. Just looking forward to continuing that partnership as the United Way of the Central Region celebrates 100 years. I mean, wow, just think about that and the legacy we all have.
Yeah, and Todd, that is such a great transition really into the next question that was asked by our Bridges Society members. Because Capitol Blue Cross is, obviously an incredible supporter and partner of the United Way. It's something that I know, obviously being at Capitol Blue Cross as well, that we take extreme pride in and push everyone within Capitol and the employees to participate as much as they can with the United Way to make that difference. But what is your personal philosophy on philanthropy?
Sure, that's a mouthful. Say it really fast.
I know, tongue twister right there.
No, thanks for the question from the Bridges members. A couple things. I took this role here at Capitol a week before the pandemic really made it clear we had to send everybody home. So it has not been a traditional year and a half for anybody, and certainly for myself at this organization. It's been novel, it's been challenging, it's been rewarding, all rolled into one. I was lucky enough to have a very good relationship with my predecessor, be able to do some transition. And at one point, Gary said, "Come over, I want to talk to you." I literally brought a pad, a pen, okay, this is it. He's going to give me the advice. I got to soak up all I can. And I sat down and he said, "Don't screw it up." And I thought to myself, that's it, don't screw it up. But you know what? He was right in that when I looked around at what Capitol has been doing, what the United Way has been doing, what the pandemic has caused, regardless of my philosophy and experience, I think it's changed for all of us in the last year and a half. So with Capitol, we're doing less sponsorships and we're doing more grants. We're doing more frontline things with food, with housing, things that just unfortunately are just of the greatest need. That's where we're putting our focus. And I feel strongly about it. You mentioned in the beginning, I've been involved with the Whitaker Center. I know, it is, we can be helpful in helping to fundraise, but also I think for the Bridges membership as leaders, your time is the most valuable, right? Nonprofits need leaders like the 700 plus Bridges members to make things go. So I'd say whether you can bring fundraising to bear, great, but it is your time, it is your thoughts, it is your networking, I think, that can be most valuable. For me, and Wes and I know each other pretty well, if it's not here at Capitol and all the work we need to do, I'm a dad first and foremost, and it's usually about kids' activities and helping fundraise at school and sports. But I also get to mix that with things like the Whitaker Center, things like the United Way. I'm on the board of my synagogue, and it's just trying to pack all that in, get a little sleep here and then, but we're having a lot of fun. And if I could, every time, and I talk to my kids about it, every time we think we're stressed, every time we think we have a problem, doing some of the work with the United Way makes me quickly realize we're pretty lucky. Our problems are small. And maybe it took something like the pandemic for a lot of people to realize that. But I would just encourage people, we didn't all get here on our own. So I would just encourage people, how do you help? What can you invest in your community? I know I don't have to push the group listening, because frankly, if you're on the Bridges Society, you're already doing it. So I guess a long-winded way of saying thank you to the group. But for me, it's community, it's kind of the kids' involvement, and just how do we continue that experience and how do I not screw it up?
You know, I mean, Todd, that's a phenomenal answer, and I think hits home, especially what you had said. You know, obviously myself having, you know, two young kids as well, and you have stresses in your life, but when you take a step back, like you said, we do have it pretty good. So, you know, I appreciate the answer and the thoughtfulness into that. So let's pivot into really your professional life. So obviously, I'm sure a ton of adversity was something that you had to face growing up. So tell us about a time where you were told no, or you can't do that along your career path, and how did you respond?
Okay, so we're talking when I was told no at work versus at home. Is that what
Yeah,
okay.
exactly. Well, no at home happens a lot, so that's okay.
Yeah.
We know that.
No, it's okay.
Yes.
A couple things come to mind, and I appreciate the question. As a lawyer, I take a little different bent maybe than some, because we're advising prior to this role, which doesn't mean your advice is always taken. And I think regardless of role, whether you're in sales, whether you're in finance, there's going to be times where you feel very strongly about something. But if you're part of an organization, you got to back the decision made. So one time I really felt strongly about an issue, and the company simply went the other way. What do you do then? I think you actually impress people when you pick up that flag that you weren't responsible for setting and actually volunteer to carry it and actually get to the goal that maybe you didn't set, maybe you weren't in favor of, but once the decision's made, the team has to get behind it. So there were times where, yes, my advice wasn't taken or they went the other way, but I felt strongly, you know, it's more, sometimes we're not right. And that comes with over time. Maybe you didn't have all the facts, but jump in and actually help that colleague, help that executive actually accomplish what she or he decided, even though you weren't on board to begin with. I would really encourage that. It's not going to only help you personally, but also professionally, because they'll see you're a team player. The other example, Wes, through my career, especially in government, there were times I was working on coverage programs, right? How do we expand coverage? Can we afford to expand coverage? It wasn't quite like a Jerry Maguire moment, you know, in the middle of the night, but you have an idea and you write up a proposal, and whether the proposal wasn't good or the timing wasn't good, the answer was no. But I didn't take no for an answer. I retooled it. I did more research, did more facts. The environment changed a little bit, and we were able actually to get that passed as the first Medicaid expansion vehicle in Pennsylvania, and I was pretty proud of that. So there are times, I'm not going to say you have to dig in, because you got to be aware of your surroundings, what you can accomplish, but it's okay to take a step back and say, well, maybe the proposal wasn't perfect. What else can I tweak? How do I continue to convince people, either in the community, in your organization, and build that grassroots aspect of it, so it's not just you pushing an idea, but people are behind it and grow it. So I learned a lot from that experience, where even a great idea, if you didn't do the groundwork, if you didn't educate people and just charged into that room and said, this idea is great, back it, sometimes it doesn't matter. You got to do the legwork. You got to bring people along. So those are just a couple examples of some things I've hit over time.
No,
in my career.
That's great. No, and again, another great answer, and appreciate it. So, you know, obviously the health insurance landscape is extremely competitive across the United States, but I would say in central Pennsylvania, the competition really is second to none. So we know there's competition out there, but more so, you know, just in general in central Pennsylvania. So how do you, so two-part question, how do you assess competition, and how, if at all, do you incorporate this information into your future planning?
Sure. Whether it's health insurance or any industry, um, the best industries, frankly, have competition. It makes you better. It pushes you. You have to be faster to market. Your service has to be better, or you're simply not going to be around. So I look over the 80 plus year history of Capital Blue Cross, and certainly there were decades where there wasn't as much competition. But sitting here today, you know, whether it's the health system owned insurance plans, whether it's national competitors, I think that's made us better. It's made us have to move quicker, be more responsive, because every customer, every consumer has options. That doesn't always make it easy on the group, on the team. A little more sweat equity some days. Even if you do everything right, you may not win an account or you may not be successful. But as you know, in pre-pandemic, it really would hit home when you go to a conference and you talk to someone from another state, another region. You found out pretty quickly that we're doing a pretty good job here. I'm pretty proud of what we have. But I think competition has pushed that envelope in a very big way over the last 10 years for us at Blue Cross and for the healthcare and health insurance industry. And that benefits consumers, right? So every business has a lot more choices. Maybe they don't realize that than in other states. You know, personally reflecting that, you have some choices to make in a hyper competitive market, right? You can be reactive or you can be proactive. And I've seen us learn along the way, where are you looking over your shoulder or are you energizing your people to say, what do we want to do, right? Be aware of, be informed, and know every aspect of your competition. But if you're just reacting, guess what? You're either never going to catch up, or maybe more importantly, you're never going to get ahead. So I think we've tried a little bit of both, but I'm really excited how we've gotten more proactive, trying some things, maybe failing at some things, but being afraid or being unafraid to try new things, I think is just where we're going to have to continue to pursue things. And again, in an industry where companies are larger and larger, it's not easy, which means you really have to not only get talent, but you have to retain talent. Yeah. But again, for me, competition is a good thing. It helps people. It makes us better. Believe me, there by Friday, some weeks, I wish there was a little less competition some days, but overall, no complaints here. It's made us a much better company.
Yeah, no, and again, another great take, and I love the point about proactive versus reactive. I know that's something that you know, you continue to talk about outside of even this conversation. So appreciate that. So the next question then is, obviously with the Bridges Society members, we have leaders on the call, we have emerging leaders on the call that have their own set of challenges and employees that they face. And I know now, as you being CEO, there's a lot on your plate. So how do you assess what you should manage versus what you should delegate?
Sure. It is a constant shifting landscape. Well, a little bit of progression, so to speak. My previous job, even though I had quite a few direct reports, I was the detailed person, right? I was the person with the stack of files that had all the details. My job was to fix things, get to the issue. And the biggest change for me, it's not the exact question you asked, but the biggest change for me coming into this role, that is absolutely opposite of what my job is now. Being in this seat, so to speak, I'm standing while talking to you, but being in this seat, it's about talent and people, and how do you get the best product by getting the folks to work cooperatively towards a common goal. So there are times where, and I've said exactly this to the team, my best day is when a group of 3 leaders get together, work through a problem, and are basically presenting the solution or a fully developed recommendation that I can support. But there are times, and human nature, any human organization, differences of opinion. And if you're not getting that, frankly, you're not challenging your team and your team isn't challenging each other. But my job now is truly to get people to work together, cooperate, trust each other, have good intent as they do it, and figure out the best way forward. So often, if you're getting the right people on it, my job more and more is to validate and provide overall strategic direction, not get in the weeds, but make sure and confirm you got a work plan, you got a timeline, you got deliverables, so I can actually hold people to those things. You get a intuition where there's a lot going on and you need to dive in a little bit and help people get organized. Or, hey, 2 areas aren't quite seeing eye to eye, let's get them in a room, let's work through it. And for me, more and more, it is about clarity, right? Making sure we don't leave that room without understanding what the decision was, where we're going, when it's due, and who's doing it. I know in some way it sounds simple, but the best course I was ever in was about negotiation, and it put people through kind of a negotiation on a deal. And there were plenty of scenarios where people thought they had a deal, and then you separated 3 people and said, write down what you agreed to. Almost 100% of the time, unless you went back through it as a group, people had 3 different opinions of what people said and what people agreed to. So more and more, it's overt clarity to help the organization. So that's a little bit about my lens, how I look at it, at times jumping in, but oftentimes getting good people and getting good people to do jobs and work together. So.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you 100%. I think we all can agree. There's a lot of times where there's meetings upon meetings, and it's a breath of fresh air when you do have leaders in a room that can, when you leave that meeting, there's clarity behind what the overall and overarching goal is. So again, that's something that I think all of us can heed as we continue to manage our teams and lead by example.
And Wes, it goes to the earlier question, right? You may not like the decision, but I think there is support and frankly more comfort organically when at least people know, okay, agree or disagree, here's where we're going, versus I think when there's a swirl, and that's between partners, that's between organizations or within any organization.
100% agree. I think it almost hits on the point that you made about, being told no, or you can't do that. Like you said, if it's your idea and potentially it's not the best idea, but you take the flag with you and your team and lead down the path, again, that's another great example of team success. So the next component, again, these are still professional, but somewhat personal, and I think these are the ones I like the most. So what situations in your role, if any, still make you nervous, and how do you deal with that? Okay.
All right. So open up the Pandora's box of my mind and what makes me nervous. As I talked about when I change roles, there's a different kind of pressure for me, and that's kind of at the enterprise level, right? Do we make the right decisions, and what are going to be the consequences if we didn't? But I have learned very quickly and gotten good advice over the years. And to all of you listening, my hope is you've worked enough places where you've seen good, bad, and everything in between, and assimilated that into how you're going to lead. Okay. I've realized over time, you're not going to get to perfect. So what is the best decision you can make in that time with the facts you have, and live with it. Okay. And that means sometimes you're going to get it right. Sometimes you're not. And when you don't, have the courage to go to your team and admit we got to change gears, admit it didn't work. And frankly, actually admit it faster than maybe you want to. Because that shows good faith. That shows them you're human, but also we're going to move and not sit and try to correct something, but move on and get to something that is going to work. So, you get nervous, and believe me, I drive up to a building. We have over 2,000 wonderful employees and team members. It kind of goes back to what I said in the beginning. I want to leave this place better than when I found it. I want to not screw it up. And I do feel I have a legacy not only to uphold, but to grow. So that has some pressures, but there's a quiet confidence that you have to develop. And believe me, I'm still a work in progress. I will have succeeded if at the end of the day, I'm the least polished person in the room. I'm not the smartest person in the room, maybe on the lower quadrant. Because if you've recruited the best people and you've empowered them to do what they need to do, and you've helped them work together, I don't need to be the subject matter expert, right? I can be the generalist that doesn't have all the files, that can support the reasoned, educated research decision. And again, those are my best days when you see that happening, not only by design, but happening organically. So they'll certainly let me know over time if I'm being successful. I got to pick back at you, Wes. The sales team, boy, you guys let me know when you think something's going right, and you certainly let us know when something is not. But that's the healthy discussion, which if people aren't getting a little bit animated, guess what? You're missing something. You want people to care. You want people to argue it out, and you have to give them a safe forum to do it. So plenty of things to be nervous about. But to me, develop your process, develop your system, follow through, have some faith in that. It doesn't mean you're still, I'll still wake up at 4 a.m. and have things to think about, but have some faith. You got the right people and you got the right strategy.
And again, Todd, awesome answer. I think, the one thing about Todd that I know, and, other people that are at Capitol that are on this virtual meeting, but people, when you get to know Todd, I mean, the one thing is that Todd has a quiet calm about him. So even in the most distressing situations, Todd does a phenomenal job of quieting the storm just by his body language and tone. So, I think that's another thing too, Todd. If you do and are nervous, you don't come across that way. And I think, again, it's just a great quality. It helps bring the team back together, knowing that the leader is able to work through any situation, as challenging as it may be.
Yeah, and Wes, so I'm the youngest of three, and then later in life added two more older stepsisters. I always felt my role was to kind of bring the folks together, right? Get this family member to get along with that family member and kind of talk through it. So it kind of helped me early on, and just continuing that. Yeah. So and look, there's all kinds of leaders out there. It doesn't have to be about you or me. That time will come. Right? You do good work. I truly believe you'll get the credit without having to advertise it.
Yep. That's a great point.
That's just me.
Absolutely, great point. So let's. So you had said, obviously you're driving into the building every day, and it's something that you continue to work on and lead by example. So the one question is, which I think is a great one, especially given the environment we're in, and knowing that you have so much on your plate. But do you have a daily routine? And if so, can you share it? Would you be willing to share it?
Sure. You know, read, and read. If you're not informed about your industry, about current events, I really think it's hard to be successful. So I wake up pretty early. I'm the morning person in my house. So it's usually read the news. You know, I hearken back to the day where it was a written newspaper, but we're long gone from that. So it's reading a lot of the news, seeing what's going on in this industry, often before the sun is up. I'm the dog walker, and then I'm making breakfast and school lunches. So there's a lot going on. It's a success arriving here, and you know, my kids are end of elementary and middle school. There was a time where it was a success just making it to work without, you know, the burp cloth on your shoulder. But it's a lot of fun getting the kids ready for school, helping them, reading about things. And, you know, I think getting to work early is important. I think being visible to people is important. The pandemic has challenged all of that. We are still about 90% remote. So I've had to think through, maybe not from a daily routine, but visibility steps, right? How do people know you're there? You're minding the store. We've made it a point. I email the entire company every week. Here's what's going on, or here's something I want you to think about. It's not always long. It's not always a business issue. But I think more now than ever, people need to hear from you as a leader, whether you're leading a department, whether you're managing two people. What people don't realize, and maybe some do, it's not necessarily what the CEO does. It's important. Most people are happy or not happy with their job, engaged or not engaged, by their direct manager, by that director, by that vice president. So to me, it's kind of energizing those folks to be the best leaders they can be. Otherwise, you're going to struggle. So more and more, it's about those kinds of steps in the pandemic. We do have a lot of meetings because you can't just stop by somebody's office, right? You're scheduling a Zoom or a team. So we're working through that. But for me, reading, absorbing, jumping in where I need to be, constantly challenging the status quo a little bit. And we have a quiet saying, celebrate the history, but be willing to challenge current processes. That's not an easy balance to hit, but it's something we're doing every day, and sometimes pushing people outside their comfort zone. So there's maybe a few attributes and a few things I do just about every day. Makes the day go fast.
Yeah. No, and so let me ask you this: if you're up at 4 a.m., is lunch around 10 or 10:30 in the morning? What time are we thinking? Their cafeteria doesn't open up that early though.
No, it's you know, we're a big packing lunch group. Although my older one wants to have pizza every day, but so do I. But you know, in the 11s.
Okay, that works. That works. Yeah. So one other question here. So for the group, actually, before I ask this question, I need to ask one more question because Todd and I were talking sports a little bit right before we started this. So obviously, you're Central Pennsylvania. This might pull people apart here, but we're in the NFL season. So who's your team right now? NFL? Is it the Eagles, Steelers, Ravens? What do you got?
You know, my popularity, to the extent there is any, is going to drop significantly. Growing up, 70s, early 80s, right? Tony Dorsett, right? Aliquippa grad, Western PA, goes to Pitt, then goes to the Dallas Cowboys, right? So I had 33. So I'm a Dallas fan in a sea of green and black and gold. As my family says, it's you're living in the 90s, my friend.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so
Todd,
yeah,
we're gonna have to end this call probably early, I think, based on
yeah,
that response. The line is blowing up right now to hang up. So no,
yeah.
I'm just joking. So I appreciate that. So one last question for you, and again, probably more on a personal note. Do you have a favorite book? I know you said you're a big reader. So is there
Yeah.
a book or an author that you seem to resonate to?
It, as I've over the years, it's probably degraded because now after reading on the computer all day, reading the news in the morning, a lot of trade journals. I'm more of like a Clancy, DeMille, Grisham. Like when I finally unplug, I don't want it too heavy. So maybe a little disappointing. I am a history buff, but more often than not, it's going a little more mindless, kind of spy novel, government, military.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, listen, you survived the Bridges Society breakfast. Hopefully, wasn't too painful for you, and the questions were relevant. But no, I guess first and foremost, let me personally thank you for your time and all that you do
Thank
for
you.
the United Way and your support. Hopefully, again, I know you well, but hopefully, it's an opportunity for everyone, on the call, the virtual call, to learn more about Todd. And I think the one thing that I appreciate most, and it's honestly, Todd, it's evident in your responses, is that not only having a quiet calm, you're passionate, right? And you're passionate about your people and your organization, and you're passionate about being a dad and a husband, which is a great thing. So thank you for the time. Leaders like you make United Way and our community great. So thanks again.
Well, and it's the group, the energized group at Bridges that moves the machinery, right? That gets people energized. We just kicked off our campaign earlier, only yesterday.
Yep.
For the next couple of weeks. So we're excited about it, but we have a lot of active Bridge Society members, and just looking forward to working with them and helping the United Way.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, again, this year marks United Way, like you had said, the Capital Region's 100th anniversary. The organization was formed because of, dedicated leaders like Todd and everyone on the call coming forward to improve our life. I know personally for myself, I have a 6 and 3-year-old, and I grew up in Central Pennsylvania like Todd as well. So, I take pride in growing up here, and I really want my kids to see that, we're all in this thing together, and we're caring for each other. I think on top of that, being part of the Bridges Society has been such a great thing for me from a volunteer standpoint, and really just changing the lives of young kids, whether it be United Day of Caring. But there's just so many great attributes of the Bridges Society. And again, I appreciate everyone's time on this call, again, to continue to be an active leader within our community. So I could go on and on and on here, but I think the video that we're going to play says it best.
I'm involved in Bridges because I want to give back. If we have the capabilities to help someone else, we should do whatever we can to make that happen.
Bridges is that wonderful eclectic group, that mosaic of leadership in the community.
Bridges, in my mind, it's a opportunity for like individuals and leaders to get together and make an impact in the central Pennsylvania region.
The way I think about Bridges Society is a group of individuals that are community-minded, that share ultimately the same vision, is giving back to the capital region.
We get to roll up our sleeves and see the work that's being done. It's also given us a chance to connect with other leaders in the area. And it's also given us a chance just to have a good time. No matter what we do, we're always having fun.
We have a lot of fun when we get together. We do a lot of volunteer activities, we get our hands dirty, and the benefit is you get a chance to meet some great people, and you get to build out both your personal and professional network.
And it's just been an awesome opportunity and an awesome experience for me. I've met so many different people, and they just see the opportunity to help other people in the area.
Bridges has been absolutely amazing. It's given me and all members an opportunity to really make a difference in the community.
So again, guys, it's 100th anniversary celebration. I can't believe it's, we've hit the century mark. Just some good housekeeping items too. Again, we do have that celebration scheduled for November 16th. Would love to see everyone attend that event. Hopefully, we continue to be in a good position with everything going on. But for more information about the Bridges, don't hesitate to reach out to the United Way. And then lastly, again, I want to thank everyone for their time today. Most importantly, I hope everyone's safe and healthy and happy. So I hope you have a great rest of the Tuesday and enjoy the rest of the day. Thanks so much.